So first, before we do that, what I want to do is go into this directory, etc sysconfig, and in Red Hat it's also in the network script subdirectory. Oops, I have to cd into there, sorry. You probably do that all the time. I'm just showing you that I'm human too. Okay, so we go in there, and what I want to do is I want to look at the ifconfig eth0 file. Okay, this is the interface I just set up, was the eth0 interface. That's always the first one that you set up. And you can see here that I've set it up, it's static. If I had chosen dynamic back there, this would say DHCP. And you can see there's a few fields here that I filled in from the netconfig utility. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to show you how to fill these fields in without using netconfig. And one of the ways that you can do that is with the commands called ifconfig and route. Okay, so the ifconfig command, to do that, you would say, okay, I want to set up eth0, and I want to bring it up, so I say up. Okay, and what that just means is you want to start it. Okay, and then what I do is I provide my IP address, like 209.11.135.227, and then I say netmask, and then I provide my netmask, and you type that in, and then I would hit enter to set that up. Now I don't want to hit enter here because I've already set it up, and I don't want to cause some duplication and mess things up. Okay, so I'm just going to hit Control C here. But if I hadn't used netconfig, I could do it like this. And the same goes for route. If I want to add a gateway, I use the route command. I say add this default gateway, okay, and then I give my gateway address. Okay, and again, I don't want to hit enter because I don't want to duplicate some of this stuff because I've already done it, but I just wanted to show you how to use the ifconfig and route commands to fill these in. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control C again. Now, one thing these two commands don't do is set up a name server. And to do that, you can go over to the etc resolve.conf file, and you can look in there, and you'll see there my name server address is located. That's where you could set it up. If you wanted to do it all manually, you could use the ifconfig command, the route command, go over to this file and edit this line and say, okay, here's what my name server is. If you wanted to put in secondary or tertiary name servers, you could also add lines under this, and you would do it there. More and more these days, people have a connection to the internet such that they plug a wire into the back of their computer, they plug the other end of the wire into the wall, and boom, they're connected to the internet. To set up networking for those people is how we already did it with the netconfig command. But some people are still using modems to connect to the internet, and for those people, they've got to use PPP, which stands for point-to-point protocol, to connect to the internet. Okay, so let's look at how to use point-to-point protocol. And it's in user, share, doc. It's not installed on the system by default. My version is 2.4.1, so let's go into that directory and see what's there. If we do a listing, you'll see a couple README files, so if you're going to install this, it's a good idea to always read these. And then you'll see a scripts directory, and in the scripts directory is some stuff that you have to modify to get PPP to work. So if I go in there and do another listing, again, you'll see a README file. This README file tells you what all the different scripts in this directory do. Let's look at the PPP on script. If you look at the script, there's some variables in here that you've got to set up. You've got to set up the telephone number, an account, and a password, local and a remote IP, and a netmask. Your information service provider should provide all of this stuff to you. Okay? So you just fill all that stuff in, you edit the script to fill that in. If you go down farther in the script, you'll see also that there's a variable dialer script that has information on where the PPP on dialer script is located. Okay, they say to put it in etc PPP. You can put it wherever you want on the system. Just make sure you change this entry once you put it there so that it knows where to find it. Okay, so PPP on and PPP on dialer work together in combination to dial you up to the internet. And it should be as easy as typing PPP on at the command line, and that should initiate your connection. It should dial and link and give your account name and password and just get you onto the internet automatically once you have it all set up. If you need help to do that, look on the internet, read the README files, and it should all go pretty smoothly. It's a pretty easy process. So now that we've set up networking on our computer, let's actually connect to a remote machine. One of the easiest ways to do that is with the telnet command. This is an age-old command in Linux, and it's on every Linux system that you'll ever run across. And then what you do is you give the name of the computer that you want to connect to. And here I'm connecting to sdf.lonestar.org. Lonestar.org is affiliated with freeshell.org, and they both give out free Linux accounts. So it's a great way to test drive Linux if you haven't installed it on your own system yet. So here I'm going to telnet there, give them my username and my password, and there, I'm on the SDF machine wherever that's located at. Maybe it's in Texas since it's called Lone Star. So a couple of the negatives of Telnet. One is I don't get a graphical interface here. It's not like an X Windows interface. It's just a plain text interface. And also, when you type in your username and your password with Telnet, it goes over the network in a plain text fashion or an unencrypted fashion. So if someone was out there with a packet sniffer, we call it, or snooping on the network, in other words, and they could see your username and your password fly by, then they could just turn around and log onto the system and trash your account. So if you really care about security, Telnet is not the way to go. And instead, you should use something like SSH or Secure Shell. So let me log out of here and we'll look at the man page for SSH. So SSH is this secure shell, like I said. When you use the secure shell to log on to a system, it automatically assumes that you have the same username that you already have. So if you want to change that username, use the -L option and you give a login name to SSH. Okay? So the SSH connection, when it sends your username and your password over the internet, it sends it in an encrypted fashion, so someone couldn't just look at it and know exactly what your username and password is. They'd have to decrypt it, which has turned out to be quite a hard task. Right, another useful program to know about is the FTP program, which stands for the File Transfer Protocol Program. And you can tell by the name it's for transferring files over the internet. So the basic text version of this you get to by typing FTP and hitting enter, and then you get to the FTP prompt. From here you can type any number of commands, and if we type help here, you can see all the commands that we can use. And this is a real mixed bag of commands. And when I say that, what I mean is that there's Linux commands in here like cd, change mode, ls, pwd to print the working directory, and so on. These are Linux commands, but then there's like DOS commands mixed in, like dir. Okay, and dir and ls basically do the same thing, but they have them both there so that DOS and Linux people can both use FTP. But there is no rm command to remove a file. That's a classic Linux command. And instead, there's the delete command from DOS. Okay, so like I said, it's a mixed bag. If you're trying to use some command and it doesn't work, go to the help screen and look through all these commands and find the one that you really want. Then there's FTP specific commands, things like open to open a connection to some remote site, and close to close that connection. There's put to put a file from your local site out to the remote site. And then there's get, which does the exact opposite. It gets a file from the remote site and brings it to your local site. Okay, so let's do some FTP stuff here. I'm going to open a connection to ftp.cbtnuggets.com. And then what it says down here is it assumes that my username is Perry because my username is Perry on this local machine. And my username actually is Perry on that machine, so I'm just going to hit enter. If my username was something different, I would type it in right there. So I'll hit enter, and now it says I need to give a password, so I'll type my password in, and now it says that I'm logged on. Okay, so I can do an ls command here and get a listing of that web, the fact that there's a directory here called web. I could also have done a dir, okay, and it also tells me the exact same information, okay. Now I can go into that web directory with the cd command, and I can do an ls here, and you'll see a file called index.html there. Okay. Now if I wanted to get that file and bring it to my local machine, I could do it just like this. Get index.html and bring it to my local machine in the home Perry index. I'm going to call it index 99 though on my local machine. Okay. So I can do that, and I can get that file, and it tells me there that the transfer is complete. It tells me how fast it was and how many bytes it was and how fast it was. Okay. Now I can also do a put here. I could put a file from my local machine out to that remote machine, and I would do it sort of the exact opposite way. I would say home Perry, let's see, I'll just put out that index99.html file, and I'll put it out there, and I'll just name it index33.html this time. Okay, so I put that out there, and now if I do a listing, you'll see right there the index33.html file is out there on the remote machine. Okay, so the FTP program is a very useful program to get to know about. This is the text-based version. There's also a graphical version I want to show you really quick. So I'm going to close this connection and quit out of FTP. And the graphical version is called GFTP, for graphical FTP. And I run that. I'm going to put it into full screen mode here. And what happens now is, here's my local home working directory. Okay, if I want to connect to some machine, I do it up here. Oops. .com. Over here I put in my username, I put in my password, and I'm going to change my password now so you don't know how many letters it is, and I'm going to connect with this button over here. Okay, so now I'm connected. There's the web directory. I double click on that, and now there's a listing of the files out there, the index 33, and so on. Okay, and now if I wanted to bring some file here, I could like highlight